You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. The low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Hi, Will.
Aaron, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I was looking for you the other day.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
I didn't look very hard because I knew you're really busy, but I opened up my son's first account at Bank of Blue Valley the other day.
That is awesome. I love hearing that, and I hope you and he had a great experience.
We did. I like to pretend like I don't know anybody there when I walk in there, just to see, like, anywhere I go, like Matt's place too today. Like, I like to pretend like I don't know anyone just to see how like regular people.
Yeah.
Not regular. You guys know what I'm talking about. To see how they're treated without knowing somebody that's in charge. And they were absolutely great.
I love hearing it. I'm not surprised, but I love hearing it.
How do you feel about me just walking around the city secret shopping?
You know what? I think you're doing a service to the city by doing that. I like it.
You're welcome.
I think you're onto something for yourself.
I know. You guys.
As if you need more to do.
What have you been up to? Anything new going on at Bank of Blue Valley that we should know about?
So, it's funny. We're going into like sporting season or sports season really kicking off. And some people have been asking me about the last couple months at Bank of Blue Valley. And I'm starting to relate it to recruiting and what's going on in sports. We've got some announcements that have already been made public, but it's been an incredible, 8 to 10 weeks for Bank of Blue Valley, bringing in new head of commercial, bringing in some very experienced bankers around town, with more announcements coming. So we're kind of hitting on all cylinders right now, and bringing the team together that we think will be, a premier banking organization in Kansas City. So we're very excited. I'm very excited.
I think this is the first time you've actually co-hosted the show since you've had your promotion, correct?
I think so. It's been it's been a little busy, but I think I gave, we had up-tiered in talent to join you for those weeks. So you're probably better off without me.
No, we missed you. We missed you a lot. Quick sports thing. Did you see that Travis Kelce got hurt today? I
just saw something on what used to formerly known as Twitter.
X.
And that's horrible timing. So
I know.
He'll fast, Travis. He'll fast.
All right. Well, we have an incredible. So this is what we call our CEO show, and so Will is co-hosting with us. Scott actually was going to co-host with Will today, and I was going to just run the tech back in. But we are hoping that Scott makes it home because he's on a delayed flight dealing with all of that stuff right now. So if you are here watching, let us know if you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. We're super excited about our guests today.
Yeah. If anyone sees Scott in an airport randomly around the country, send us pictures, proof of life. We'd love to, we're worried about you, Scott. Worried.
He's here somewhere. He's not even in the comments. Usually if he's not on the show, he's in the comments. So Scott, let us know how you are. Okay, so I've got to take this off so I can introduce our guests. I'm really excited for you guys to meet our guest. He's been on here before, but I don't think he's ever been on here on his own. It's very attractive.
Without saying.
All right. So our guest today, he doesn't need an intro. You guys all know who he is. The one, the only, the attractive, Matt Baysinger. Oh, there it is.
As advertised.
There you go, Matt. You feeling all the love today now?
I am. Thank you for doing the exact opposite thing that I requested. I'll have my attorney be in touch.
just note where that came from, Matt, and just
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Will, I'll just talk with you the whole time. We can ignore Aaron altogether. It'll be a great one-on-one private conversation.
No, she brings the fun though.
She does.
All right, Matt, I'm sorry. I just had to do it. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Hoo-wee. So I'm Matt Baysinger. I'm the CEO and founder of Swell Spark. Most folks probably know us better as either Breakout KC, Blade and Timber, or Sinker's Lounge. Our goal is to make it easy for folks to have fun, gather people for shared experiences. I've been in Kansas City for 22 years now. This is actually, this is going to be a big moment for me because I'm going to say something for the first time, Aaron. This is a big deal. I'm now formally a Chiefs fan. It took me some time, moving here from Denver. Had a couple of years where I was kind of in between and didn't know what to do with the feelings that I was having about the Chiefs. But I've decided that it's now real. So I'm going to get a Chiefs shirt or hat to commemorate the occasion.
Make it real. That solidifies it.
Having lived now the majority of my years in the Kansas City Metro instead of the Denver Metro, it's time to fully come over and embrace the Chiefs side of things. So it's a big day.
If you need any mentorship or anything, my dad was from Colorado and he switched when we moved here. It took a while, but people have done it and I've seen them do it successfully.
Yeah, it's, I went to Rally House yesterday and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy, and I didn't find the right shirt. So we're going to find the right shirt or something.
You got to ease into it. I get it.
It's like all my family are fans of that other team that shall not be named. And so it was actually kind of a big deal. I was like, hey, this is the thing now. And so my brother's giving me trouble. My dad's giving me trouble. But you know what? You live in Kansas City long enough and it just kind of hooks you. And I'm not just talking about the professional sports teams. I'm talking about the city as a whole. So Kansas City person through and through, graduated high school here, went to KU, Rock Chalk, right?
Rock Chalk.
And started this company coming up on 9 years ago.
So first of all, I want you to get into what happened in Lawrence this weekend because it's a huge deal, right? And then two, you look way better in red than orange anyway. So I think you've made a good decision.
I appreciate that. Yeah. We probably the biggest exclamation mark of our company that got pretty buried because of the timing, but we had a store in Lawrence, burned down in, October of 2019 and had never gone through something like that. It was a nice little cute store downtown Lawrence. I live in Lawrence. And by the time that we kind of got sorted out of what, the rebuilding process, it was the start of the pandemic. And so when it was insurance and landlord and all these stuff come together and they say, hey, do you want to rebuild this thing or do you want to take this check? And at this point, there was no PPP. There was nothing. So we're like, golly, we'll take the check. But 4 years later, we finally found the right spot and had the opportunity to reopen our Blade and Timber location in Lawrence. And we had a sold out Saturday evening, which was really fun. And it's good to be back and have kind of this little small town, hometown win in Lawrence. And Aaron, you asked me something else and I already forgot. I got too caught up in Lawrence.
I think you answered it. Oh, I just said, no, you look better in red than orange, but Elizabeth did say they're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Maybe she'll go to your side. Maybe you guys can start a club for people that moved to Kansas City and we're trying to convert. Just whatever.
I have, this is gonna sound like showboating or something, but I think what was really weird for me, one is I worked for KU coming out of college, then I ended up working for the Big 12 and then the NCAA. And so even when I started working for the Big 12, there were times where I went to the national championship game when Texas was playing Alabama and I was fully rooting for Texas, which felt very wrong as a Jayhawk, right? You're not, but I was there for the Big 12, And then two of my college roommates ended up playing in the NFL, one of them primarily for the Chargers, and then another one for the Broncos. So the Broncos one was really easy to be a fan of Chris Harris, but Daryl Stuckey was my college roommate, was in my wedding, and he was for the Chargers. And again, you're not you're not supposed to like the Chargers, but I was like, but it's my guy. So I feel like I've had a very thoughtful, introspective fandom experience of trying to figure out who to cheer for and why.
So
I think you can always cheer for the player. You can't make it about the whole team. You just
Right.
gotta, and that's quite a room or quite a house you lived in. So
it's a fun one for sure. Yeah.
A lot of athletic folks, including yourself, with the letter hanging on the wall behind you.
Yeah, I was fast but not strong, which is why I was in a very different sport than these football fellas. But I ran track at KU about 30 pounds ago and 20 years ago, you know.
Yeah. I didn't know that. What event did you run? And then Will's gonna ask questions.
Yeah, the 800 and the 400, so half mile, quarter mile, 1 lap and 2 lap for those that are not of a track and field background. So I was able to
on the rowing team. Look at all of us athletes.
Yes. Were you a coxswain? You were the person who yells and barks orders at everyone else? I love it.
Sure. All right, Will, you're up.
No, Swell Spark. You know, I don't want to assume that everybody listening knows the history and knows all about it. I love the experiential aspect of what you've done and what you put together, but maybe you can talk about your concepts and there might be one that's, you know, fairly new for most people and something you can highlight, kind of new to Kansas City.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really fascinating. I actually posted on LinkedIn, you know, maybe a month ago. There's this part of me, having been in the Kansas City business community for, you know, 8 or 9 years now, where I feel like most of the folks in our circles and you know, our circle kind of collided today, which is great. But I have this assumption that everyone knows what my concepts are, right? Because we've been around for a while and we've had some measures of success. But with regularity, you know, someone will be like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I run escape rooms, Breakout KC. They're like, oh, are those the things that you put in your basement for when there's intruders? And I'm like, do you really not know what an escape room is? You know, and there are still so many people who have never heard of an escape room. And it just means we need to advertise better, right? Like it means we need to get the word out and make sure that people are aware. Or there's a lot of folks who know what they are, but haven't yet done them, which is great, because that means that I have future customers. But I've definitely had this kind of change in mindset of going from, oh, I assume everyone knows what I do, to, oh, we're still in this phase where we're trying to teach people that we exist in the first place. So our first concept that we opened was Breakout KC, which is an escape room, which is a bad name for the concept. It's really more of like a hero room, or, you know, this kind of immersive experience. You get to come in, you get to be the hero of a story. So generally speaking, you have 60 minutes to solve something so that you can win. And that whole industry started as like, oh, you have to defuse the bomb within 60 minutes. And it's really evolved into this amazing storytelling. So at this point, Breakout KC is the only escape room in the country to be rated in the top 10 by both USA Today and TripAdvisor. We're the only escape room in the country to do a partnership with a professional sports organization. So we have a Sporting Kansas City partnership and themed room at our River Market location, which is super neat. And that concept has taken us all over the world. I mean, we've been able to consult and install escape rooms in Singapore, you know, and there are dozens and dozens of other escape room facilities around the country that are using props or things that we've created. So we started that in 2015. In 2017, we added blade and timber axe throwing. And so we have 7 axe throwing bars around the country, a couple of them in Kansas City, but we go all the way out to Seattle and Portland, Honolulu, kind of go here and west. And so that concept's been going since late 2017. And then in April of last year, we opened Sinker's Lounge, which is our upscale indoor mini golf cocktail bar. And so taking mini golf that we all loved, right, of our age and demographic when we were in our 10s and teens, and we've kind of adultified it. And so it's still fun for the children. Obviously, bring your kids. But we have a really great, food and beverage program. And so to be able to take that and make it relevant and make it current again has been really, really fun. So store number 2 for that will be opening October of this year in Manhattan, Kansas. Store number 3 in Lawrence, Kansas next year. And then we're going to continue to grow that primarily in kind of mid-market towns in the Midwest.
And that is downtown Kansas City, the initial?
Yeah. So Sinkers Lounge, the original, is Power and Light. So right there on 13th Street between Maine and Baltimore. So next to Yard House, next to Blade and Timber, if you know the area very well.
Yep. And the thing that families love, your properties, what you offer. Corporations love them. It brings a lot of people together. And so, what's the average size if people are thinking about having an event, family wise, or for a company? What do you recommend? What's that sweet spot for enjoyment?
I think the beauty of what we do is that there isn't a single sweet spot, right? And so all of our concepts are kind of built to be able to scale. So an escape room is for up to 8 people, but we have 7 of them, at River Market. So you can have a group of 50 or 60. You can all be doing an experience at the same time. And there's a lot of really good trash talking that comes from, half the groups are going to break out, half of them aren't. And so it creates this really fun dialogue afterwards.
Yeah.
And think of a movie theater, right? Like at Breakout KC, each escape room is its own complete storyline. So you can come back time and time again. And we have a lot of businesses, a lot of families, and it's just become, hey, this is what we do for Christmas, or this is what we do for our Q3, event that we have. Blade and Timber, it's 6 people per lane, but at our Power and Light location, we have 13 lanes. And so whether you have a group of 6 or you have a group of, 150, we have a full bar and restaurant at that facility as well. Town Center is a comparable size. And then Sinkers Lounge is good. Again, a tea time is generally for 6 people, but we're teeing off 5 or 6 groups every 30 minutes. And then we also have tabletop. And so, we have corporate groups that are as small as you and your couple buddies that are in a WeWork conference room, 5 or 6 folks. We also have served groups that are 300 and 400 people where we do a full buyout of both facilities combined. So we have a sales manager, Olivia, who does a fantastic job. And, what we have found, I think, especially now, right? So many people are working from home or working remote or doing a bit of both. And I think we forget sometimes the importance of that human element. And so what we try to provide for businesses and for families is these launching points that create conversation afterwards, right? It's one thing you're going to spend an hour or 2 hours together, but afterwards, Aaron is going to be like, oh my gosh, Will, I can't believe you got a hole in one on number 3. And Will's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you figured out tabletop before I did. Or with axe throwing when Susie from HR is the first one to hit a bullseye, right? It just becomes these water cooler things that really help us to create, I think, better relationships with each other.
100%. It's great.
If you were dating again, which I know you're not because you have a wonderful family, but if you were dating again.
Dating my wife every day, Aaron.
If you were going on a first
good
date,
answer.
Let me say it that way. That was a great answer.
Yeah.
All right. If you're going on a first date with someone, which of the 3 concepts would you take them to?
First date, I would do Sinkers.
And why?
The reason being is Sinkers, if you want it to be, can be the fastest of the 3 things, right? So if the date is not going well, like after 9 holes, you're like, all right, like that was fun, bye. And like 30, 45 minutes and you're done, right? But if the date's going really well, you decide, hey, we want to spend some time at the bar. We want to do tabletop golf. And we have folks who will hang out at Sinkers for 3 or 4 hours. So it's the most flexible, and probably the most accommodating for good experience or bad experience, Where Blade and Timber, it's a 90-minute experience, right? And if you duck out early, like kind of awkward turtle going on there.
Or if she hits all the bullseyes, that's scary.
There's that too, right? And then Breakout is a 60-minute experience, but it's also like in the best way possible. Breakout is a little bit more stressful, right? And the best groups of Breakout are ones that already communicate really well together. So a great group of friends or a great group of colleagues is going to be really your prime audience for Breakout. So I'm going Sinkers.
Like it.
Positives to 2 of the 3. Blade throwing, you got to figure out. You got to make sure there's a lot of trust involved there. A lot of trust for that one. Hey, so you mentioned a couple things that are interesting and prevalent in the news is return to office for a lot of companies. My company came back. We all came back to the office relatively early compared to others, but this is really kind of coming to a head. So I'm curious to see I see that, consumers themselves are spending a lot of money on experiential items. And that's kind of, I'm sure has been consistent for you.
Mhm.
But I wonder if you are hearing more from companies that have people coming back to the office and they're kind of trying to figure out a get to know you session or get everyone re-engaged.
We do. I feel like our company could be a case study of what the last 4 years have looked like, just from relational and socioeconomic and business. And it's right, because we are in markets like Seattle and Honolulu, which are very left of center traditionally. We're in markets like Wichita, that's probably a little bit more right of center. And it's just been so fascinating where some places are saying like, hey, we're thinking about doing return to office. Whereas we have other markets that returned to office a year and a half ago or never left office, right?
Yeah.
And as different things, as the tech industry has kind of gone like this a little bit, we see that a little bit differently in Seattle than we do in Hawaii. As Hawaii travel has been affected or has been in the news for, a big fire, you see these things happen. And so it's just interesting. I'm really grateful that we're in so many different markets, because as one market has slowed for whatever reason, usually or often another market is doing really well for the opposite reason. In regards to return to market, I think the folks who are doing it best are doing that. And I think this year, there's been a lot of talk about the R word, right? The recession. And we've seen a lot of people, and unfortunately, we're one of the first costs that gets cut. But I think because of that, tenureship at different workplaces is the lowest it's ever been, right? You look at the generation just younger than me, and they're predicting that folks who are currently in their 20s and 30s, that they're going to have 30 to 40 jobs over the course of their work life.
Whoa.
It's insane, right? Whereas my folks' generation was 7 to 11. And they're saying for the folks who are graduating in the 2010s and beyond, they're saying 30 to 40 positions and jobs. And I think a lot of that is because businesses are not doing the things to create roots and to create relationship and rapport with their staff that they used to.
Yep.
And I could go off on that, but we only have, a handful of minutes left.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm biased, but I think the best businesses are still the ones who are going out of their way and spending the extra couple bucks to make time and to spend time at a place like ours that is going to give people the opportunity to spend real time together, and not just like, hey, happy hour last 10 minutes on a Friday at work type of thing,
Yep. I agree.
Which market has surprised you the most? And I guess I know we don't have very much time left. I want Will to ask another question, but which market has surprised you the most, and how, what's your final decision making when you're choosing markets?
Yeah, so Hawaii has been the most volatile, which in some ways was really good, in some ways is really bad. So coming out of the pandemic, it was the first to rebound. And it rebounded so well. It was, even though it's a store that's half the size of many of our other ones, it was our top performing store for about 8 months. And then that was until there was the state of Hawaii put in a program where in order to go to a bar or restaurant, you had to show your vaccine card. And then it went to our lowest performing store overnight. I mean, it was crazy. We don't necessarily live and die by tourism, but it's noticeable. And so the type of tourist at Hawaii has changed a lot. It used to be, kind of a once in a lifetime destination type thing. And it was kind of higher end travelers. And now it's the same types of folks who are going to Panhandle, Florida. And there's nothing wrong with either group of people, but they're different and they're spending money differently when they're there. And so again, just I'd like to think I'm still a young business person. And so to try to get my handle on these things and understand how we can predict and account for this, it's fun and it's challenging and it's hard. And it's all the things that make business, either awesome or awful, depending on the day. In regards to what markets we look at, Aaron, it's a little bit of a moving target. I think that's something that we're still probably not experts at by any means. One of the things that's interesting in mini golf in particular is that there are these very, very large groups that are private equity backed that have hundreds of millions of dollars of VC funding that are going into larger markets. And so we're not really considering the Chicagos or the Denvers or the Miamis of the world for that concept, because quite frankly, when a group comes in and spends $25 million compared to the million that I spent, that's hard to compete with in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of markets like Manhattan, Kansas, where when we open there, we're going to be the largest entertainment provider within 150 miles. They don't have Topgolf. They don't have, iFly. They don't have these things. And so we really become the destination and primary entertainment provider. And so I think with that opening in October, it's going to help us understand if that type of market really is the best fit for us. But we're going in that market because we believe that there's a really good chance that that is the path forward for our company, is going into these 50 to 250,000, person places and really just owning it, monopolizing hopefully some of the entertainment options in those places.
This person said, but they have their privacy settings on. This was funny, so I wanted to show it. But we don't know who you are, but that was great. All right, Will, ask a final question.
Yeah, final question, and I'm sorry we ran out of time for this, but we get a lot of people that listen and watch the show here that are either just now getting into business or contemplating making that leap to starting their own business. What advice would you give to that entrepreneur that's getting ready to make that leap, to follow and do what you did?
I'm going to say something that hopefully will scratch your back a little bit, but it's true. We were very lucky that we made a great banking relationship when we started. And we didn't know it. We thought we were just going to one of the closest branches that did pretty well with startups. But the relationships that we formed have continued to serve us for a long time. There's a lot of people that just assume, go to whatever biggest bank is next door and you just open an account, and that couldn't be further from the truth, because if things go well and you decide that you want to scale, you're going to be able to do so 10 times easier when you know the name and the face and the folks that you're dealing with, compared to going to, one of the big 3 or 4 largest banks in the country. It's just not the same.
Yep.
But I also think, I think just really being intentional about what success looks like in the business. And I know it sounds dumb, but I think some of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn were because we were successful. And because, for instance, maybe the folks I was working with didn't have the same goals that I had. And so when we started to see some success and started to make those decisions, we were already all bought in and realized, hey, we actually want different things out of this. But I think lastly, starting a business takes a lot of work. And I think a lot of people get really maybe blinded by what I'll call the VC route, which is, I want to do it with as little risk as possible. And I just want to do someone else's money and they'll fund this idea. It's like, man, that's not more often than not, that's not the way that it's going to work out. Like you have to dive in with both feet and your own money and your own time in order to make this thing work and be successful.
Yep.
And so for those folks who are like, hey, how did you get investors to start? I'm like, I didn't. I just worked overtime at my other jobs to raise money and put it into this. And I worked 120 hours a week. Didn't do that forever, and it's not sustainable. But you only have time or money. And if you don't have one, you're going to have to use more than the other. So dive in with both feet, give it a shot. And especially for younger folks, you have so much less to lose in the early stages of your career than you do in the later stages. And so I think oftentimes the risk is worth the reward.
Yep. Very well said. Very well said.
That was good. Okay, we have one question. I want to see if we can give your 10-second answer to this.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing. Can you give us an idea of the red tape you've experienced and endured?
I think I would argue that the single hardest thing about doing a business is the red tape of making sure that all of your government and tax stuff is correct and all of your insurance stuff is correct. Like no one wakes up thinking like, man, I'm so excited to renegotiate my insurance contract. And so I think that's
been said zero times it's been said.
That red tape, it took us 2 years to get our liquor license in Seattle, and that we had to litigate with the state of Washington to make that happen. It took us over 2 years to get it in Honolulu because we were kind of cutting edge, no pun intended, for Blade and Timber. but there's red tape in every industry. I think lease negotiation and making sure that you're buttoned up in those ways is super duper challenging. And so maybe, to one of the earlier questions that you asked, but no one wants to spend a lot of money or a time on attorneys and things like that. But it's almost always going to be worthwhile having a conversation in the early stages with an attorney to make sure you understand what it is that you're getting into and what sort of regulations might pertain to those things.
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
you're building your table of advisors. I was just going to try to sum it up, but
yep.
People you can lean on. I think that's a great concept.
Thanks, Will, for co-hosting with me. You did so good.
It's easy when you're here. Don't tell Scott that.
Going. Okay, I'm totally telling him. Thank you so much for Matt for coming on. Thank you so much to Bacon Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell. Make sure you follow Matt. He's got some really awesome stuff, and he puts out great content, so you can learn a lot about being an entrepreneur from him. We will see you same time, same place next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.